Okay, last option is hexagon. It's an example of, and I'm gonna select the conceptual mass face. I'm gonna divide it. I'm gonna select the grid, and I'm gonna make it in this case hexagon, for example. Again, you can change the distance to be, you know, every 10 feet, not 106, 10 feet, and 10 feet there. Or you can make that one set to distance, sorry. There you go, so it should repeat every 10 feet. What I'd like to do is actually go to numbers, so it's exactly set by number, because otherwise you will have that little detail that we had before. Number, obviously these are many of them, but let's see if we can manage to do a crazy facade with the hexagon option. I'm gonna do a new family. It's gonna be the same one, curtain panel pattern base. In this case, I'm gonna select the grid in blue, make it a hexagon, and here with a different profile, you can set your new module that will be repeated in the conceptual mass. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a reference line. I'm going to make sure that the 3D snapping is not on, and just click to the 6 and 3. I'm going to set the plane. I'm going to tap to select the vertical plane of that reference plane. I'm going to create a reference line starting at this point vertically. I'm pressing shift now, so it's actually vertical. And I'm going to create a reference line starting at this point, shift vertical till it snaps. I can actually select one of the reference planes and click on the symbol of dimensions and select, after escaping the dimension, and say add parameter. Let's say vertical offset, and say OK. Now it's a type, so that's going to be inside of the type. And again here, select dimension and make the same parameter there. So now I can flex it, meaning go to the parameters and change that number and see if it changes. No, they change. Next step is I'm going to do a reference point and place it on top of both lines. Actually, I should have done, now that I remember, is first set my working plane to that plane. You can always say show here, so you see that in blue the plane where you're working at. Say reference point, put it on top of that line, and another one on top of this one. Okay, I'm going to do a reference line, and in this case I'm going to say 3D snapping, so I can go from 1 to that point to 5, escape, reference, 3D snap from 2 to that point to 4. I'm going to keep on with reference and 3D snappings to go from 3 to this new point. I'm going to escape and do another one, and another one here. Okay, I'm going to flex it, meaning changing the parameters again. Let's see if it works. It works. It works. It works. Okay, nice. So now we have a bunch of lines that we can use and create forms out of them. So you can select one line, another line, and another line that are closed by a triangle and say create form. It's going to give you two options, extruded and non-extruded. I'm going to say none, and I'm going to do that for every shape, whether it's triangle or square. And final. Okay, and flex it again, meaning again changing the parameters, and see if everything follows along. Good. I'm going to obviously save it. Call it hexagon module, and load it into the project. It's going to come here. Nothing seems to happen, but you can select. As you can imagine, there's many hexagons here, so it's going to take a long time. I'm even afraid I'm going to make it a little smaller so we assure that this happens, otherwise even 30, say 32. Okay, I'm going to select that and search under the hexagon for our hexagon module. Again, it should work and it shouldn't take so long. If it's taking long, I think it's because we're recording at the same time, but this shouldn't be such a big deal, to be honest. There you go. So these are monster. As you can see, they correspond exactly. This is when we're dealing with material without thickness and actually moving towards the center and up, meaning like pyramidal style, they normally work very well, all these pattern-based modules. The problem is when you have to really work in correspondence, meaning they're tangent, each of the modules between each other, and obviously when we need to give thickness. No, this is easy because it's zero. It's almost like a Rhino file. When you want to give thickness is when things start getting tricky. We'll talk about later on. Let's try to add a structure. Also a little bit of tricking the system. Okay, what I'm going to do is turn off. I'm going to select everything and filter out everything except, I guess it's the other. And I'm going to turn that off. Hide elements, and there's a way, let me turn off that you can place a point in any reference line and set to that point plane to create a circle, for example. You can select, after escaping the circle, given the dimension, select the dimension and add a parameter and call it like structure width, for example. You can even change that parameter to be 3 inches, for example, and there it goes, it changes. And now how it works is that you first select the curve, and then you, with pressing Control, you select the chain of lines that you want to sweep it along, and then you say create form, and there you go. If you change the parameter for the width to 6, the structure follows along. So we have to do that for every structure. So we're going to use point, snap to any line, set the working plane to the point plane, and create, for example, a circle. I'm going to set the parameters afterwards. Set to the point circle, and again you can select those, click on the dimension, select the dimension and set it to the parameter structure width, select the circle, dimension, structure width. You could have different dimensions or thickness, obviously. I changed there the parameter by mistake, so there you go. And now you select the curve first, and then the chain of lines that you want to sweep along. The curve and the lines to sweep. Okay, last but not least, snap to this point. Just going to do another option, set it. I'm going to say circle, and I'm going to create a new parameter here, so you could have a different parameter. Add parameter, structure width 2, and that's going to be half, for example. Actually, you could even just say that structure W is actually, this one is half of the other one. Just copying Control C, Control V divided by 2. Oh. Let's see if it works. Yes, so that's going to be always half. So you can relate parameters all the time. Again, curve, control, and the chain to sweep along. Okay. I'm going to turn on everything, reset. I'm going to save that. If you want to assign materials, as always, you can start tabbing and selecting the different elements. You can also just filter out and select materials. You go to the materials, and again, you probably want to create a new material. You're going to rename it. It's aluminium, for example, and you go to the material library and you search for it. Say dark, double click, so it's assigned to that material. Say OK, so that one is assigned to it. You can do the same with the glass, or let me actually filter out things so we can select properly. This one, this one. And this one are going to be aluminium. And the planes, let's just have these two as glass. So I'm going to press Control, and these are going to be a glass. So again, new, although I have a glass one here, so you can always say search for glass. If you don't have there, you can always click on the appearance options and glazing, clear glass or dark bronze, double click, it's assigned to that glass material. You can close that, say OK. And the other panels could be, I don't know, copper or whatever you want. Let's create material, new material, rename, copper, turn on the library, let's search for copper, satinate it, double click, it's assigned, close, OK. You can always go and see this a bit better and save it, load into the project, and as you can imagine, it's going to take a bit long because we're adding structure for each of these modules, materiality, etc. This will be also in your project if you're logging in. And again, this is one shape, but you can think of alternative ways of using the reference line and reference planes, etc. to create your own modularity. Okay, I'm going to cancel this and see if it works